Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Baldwin Breakdowns where we're looking at big concepts, big ideas, and lots of big feelings. And this week we have a feeling as our topic, which is stress. And I'm sure that this is an unfamiliar concept to most of you. Doesn't happen often. We don't experience it that much. It's pretty rare. So this might not relate to all of you, or it might relate to every single person that has come onto this video. So I really wanted to talk about the reasons why stress might occur for us and also talk about how we can respond when it does show up and how we can kind of support ourselves through it. So stress, first and foremost, is something that our bodies were meant to experience. And this actually comes back to that fight or flight response, which I made a video for recently, and so I'll link it somewhere here or there, I don't know, wherever it shows up. But it is our body's way to respond to something that might be a threatening situation. And I say threatening very loosely because it's also just situations where we need to be more on alert. So because of this, because our bodies are designed to experience this, and this is quite literally one half of our autonomic nervous system, that sympathetic stress response, it's not something that we can avoid. There's no way to fully eliminate or get rid of stress in our lives. And we shouldn't try to. There's something about stress that is teaching us something, that is a feeling that we can learn from. And at the same time, we don't want stress to be so consuming and overwhelming that it is kind of destructive in other areas of our life. So talking about the causes of stress, I didn't want to, list off all the, I don't know, common things that we might think of, right? Like work, money, relationships, and time, chores, whatever. I wanted to actually talk about why stress may feel like that kind of constant, persistent, overwhelming feeling rather than just kind of a random occurrence here and there. So first thing that I think keeps us very fused or hooked into these stressful feelings are when our thoughts are focused on the future. So if we constantly have this kind of future attention, and specifically if we are very rarely or never focused on the present moment, then we always kind of have additional things to stress about, for lack of a better phrase. So if I'm constantly thinking about tomorrow, next week, next month, a few years from now, then there's always going to be so many tasks and so many items and so many to-do lists that just are not possible for me to accomplish right now. So it creates this extra level of stress and it creates an expectation that just isn't possible to reach. Second piece, and I think this is huge, is if our value and our worth as people, how we see ourselves, is linked with our productivity. And so this can be very common for anyone in any type of role, whether you are a caregiver, whether you have a high responsibility job, whether you are a student. There can be so much fused with how much you kind of put out in a day, how much you accomplish in a day. And usually that productivity is not focused on tasks or items that better your own health. They're usually focused on kind of objective tasks, I guess. Like I finished this chore, or I completed this assignment, or I did this project, rather than being other things that can be equally productive, and that aren't centered around this kind of to-do list culture. And then third is if we don't actually make intentional time to relax our nervous system. So stress, like I said in the last slide, is connected with this fight or flight response, with this kind of activated nervous system response. And if we don't have intentionally carved out time to relax it, especially if stress does feel like a common or constant feeling, then we are going to be chronically living in this stressed state. And our body really never has a chance to slow down, which makes it that much harder to slow down. So when we don't have that intentional time carved out, it can feel like this constant, persistent feeling. So just quickly, I'm going to give examples as to how we can kind of counter or deal with all three of those pieces. So I have these three columns kind of corresponding to those three causes, those future focused thoughts, how we see our self-worth, and then calming the nervous system. So to counter that kind of future thought mentality, or always thinking about what's happening next, what am I going to do next, things that can be really helpful to alleviate that are practicing mindfulness and meditation, doing gratitude practice, and specifically gratitude practice about like present moment things. So I really like how comfy and soft this sweater is. I like the pillow that's behind me. I like the temperature of the room right now. Keeping gratitude very centered in the present. And then also limiting the time period of your to-do list. So rather than setting yourself a to-do list for a huge chunk of time and constantly thinking about it, like for me, I have a running to-do list for work items that could literally take me a full year. I add items in there, but I don't ever keep it up and look at it, because if I would do that, then I would have so much stress constantly. Instead, I limit my to-do list at work to a single day. So I say, today I'm going to do these things. And then it prevents that kind of future focus of all these extra tasks that we have to accomplish. I don't know why I'm shaking, like my voice is very shaky right now. For the second piece, so that self-worth and being kind of very tied up and hooked by this idea of productivity, things that can helpfully counter that are affirmations and positive self-talk, and specifically about your own worth and your value. Bonus points if you give affirmations about the fact that you are not tied to productivity. The second piece would be emotional self-care time. So I think I was going to initially just put self-care, but I think sometimes that can very easily be wrapped up in like, I'm just going to watch TV, or I'm going to, buy myself things or whatever. Taking care of yourself emotionally looks very different, because it requires you to actually acknowledge how you're feeling and kind of support yourself through those feelings. And then prioritizing your interests and hobbies. So if you are very fused with that like productivity trap and the things that you accomplish as, in your roles as a worker, student, parent, caregiver, whatever, then it can feel very easy to kind of neglect the other non-productive parts of your life, like hobbies, like interests, like things that don't have an agenda necessarily. And then that third piece of regulating your nervous system, things that can give that intentional calming effect are cold showers, deep breathing, positive social time, so time actually spent with your loved ones in a positive, fun, welcoming environment, and then things like laughing, singing, dancing. That kind of connects a lot with the social time piece, because depending on who your friends and family are, but for me, like I'll laugh and dance a lot with my family. But connecting all of those things gives your nervous system that break from being at this very stressed level. That's stress. After this, no one should ever be stressed again, obviously. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys on another episode of Baldwin Breakdowns. Bye.